Grace lived in a small cottage near the edge of the forest. She was simple, soft-spoken, and always ready to help. Her parents had died years earlier, leaving her with nothing but her mother's old recipe book for herbs and her father's tools. Villagers often came to her for medicine, for advice, or sometimes just for comfort. Children loved her because she told them stories while giving them berries from her garden. People would often say, "Grace has a heart purer than gold." But that same admiration planted seeds of jealousy in other hearts. Victoria, who lived near the village square, could not stand hearing Grace's name praised daily. "What is so special about her?" she muttered one evening to Martin and Joseph, who sat at her table drinking ale. "She walks around like an angel, and everyone bows. But she's nothing. If people only knew the truth, they wouldn't worship her." Martin, deep in debt and bitter, leaned forward. "Maybe we should show them that truth." Joseph grinned darkly. "Or we make her disappear." That night, a cruel seed was planted. The three began meeting in secret. Victoria fanned their anger, saying Grace was a witch who bewitched villagers with her beauty and kindness. Martin believed it, Joseph supported it, and Victoria's jealousy turned into fire. They decided Grace had to be silenced forever. One stormy evening, Grace returned from the forest with herbs. She smiled as the rain tapped against her basket. Suddenly, shadows surrounded her. Victoria's voice cut through the storm. "You've fooled them long enough." Before Grace could speak, Martin and Joseph seized her. She cried out, "What are you doing?" Joseph snarled, "Tonight you pay." They dragged her to the river. The water rushed wild and black. Grace screamed, "I've harmed no one." But Victoria pushed her under. Grace's final words were broken by the storm. "The truth will rise, and so will I." By morning, the villagers noticed Grace had not opened her cottage. Children knocked on her door. No answer. Her herb basket lay scattered by the forest path. People began to whisper. Victoria, Martin, and Joseph pretended to mourn, saying perhaps Grace had wandered too deep into the woods. But the guilt in their eyes betrayed them. That night, Victoria woke to the sound of someone humming outside her window. It was a soft lullaby Grace used to sing to the children. Victoria froze. She peeked outside. No one was there. But when she turned back, herbs lay scattered on her bed. She screamed. Martin walked by the river the next day, trying to forget Grace's cries. Suddenly, the water rippled, and he saw her face beneath the surface. Pale, eyes wide, lips moving silently. He stumbled back, shouting, "No, no, you're gone." Villagers saw him shaking, but he refused to tell them what he saw. Joseph entered his barn to check on his animals. The place was quiet until he heard it, Grace's voice whispering his name. "Joseph!" He dropped his lantern, almost setting the barn on fire. He ran out, gasping, "Leave me alone." But there was no one behind him. Victoria looked into her mirror that evening. For a moment, her reflection shifted. Grace stood behind her, dripping wet, with dead eyes. Victoria shrieked and smashed the glass. Her husband asked, "What's wrong?" She lied, saying she saw a shadow. But inside, she knew Grace was not gone. Rumors spread quickly. "Grace would never vanish without word," said the baker's wife. Children whispered that they heard her singing in the fields at night. The villagers began to suspect foul play. Martin, Joseph, and Victoria avoided people's eyes, but whispers grew louder. Maybe someone hurt her. One midnight, all three heard it at once. A wail swept through the village, so mournful it chilled the blood. "Did you hear that?" villagers asked each other. Victoria, Martin, and Joseph did not answer. They sat in their homes trembling, each knowing the cry belonged to Grace. Joseph's animals began to die one after another. Chickens, goats, even his horse, all found lifeless by morning. Villagers pitied him, but Joseph knew. He screamed at the empty air. "Stop it, Grace! Leave me alone!" But only silence answered him. Martin dreamed he was drowning in the river. He felt hands dragging him down, water filling his lungs. When he woke, his bed was soaked though no rain had entered his house. He wept in terror, whispering, "She won't let me go." Victoria's little daughter began talking to someone unseen. "Mama, Grace visits me at night," she said innocently. Victoria slapped the child in fear, shouting, "Don't ever say that name." But the girl cried. She said she wants her justice. Joseph wandered near the river one night. Villagers saw him speaking to the water as though answering a voice. "Yes, I'll come," he muttered. They dragged him away before he stepped in. But Joseph screamed, "She's waiting for me." Victoria's house caught fire mysteriously one night. She swore she saw Grace standing in the flames, staring at her. The villagers managed to put it out, but Victoria's hair turned white from the shock. She whispered, "She will not stop." Martin woke with scratches across his chest, as though claws had raked him. He swore he heard Grace whisper in his ear, "I will not rest." He begged Joseph and Victoria, "We must confess. It's the only way." But Victoria hissed, "Never. Do you want us hanged?" One market day, Victoria fainted in front of everyone. She claimed she saw Grace standing among the crowd, dripping wet, staring at her. Villagers murmured. "She is cursed," they said. People began to avoid the three, certain something evil surrounded them. One evening, Joseph finally broke. He ran through the streets screaming, "We killed her! We drowned her in the river!" Villagers gasped in shock. Before they could stop him, Joseph collapsed on the ground, eyes wide open, dead from terror. The whole village knew something dark had happened. The village was restless. Rumors flew. Grace's ghost walks among us, demanding justice. People avoided the river at night, swearing they heard crying. Children woke from nightmares, saying, "Grace is looking for her killers." Victoria locked herself inside her home. Martin wandered like a man already condemned. And yet, the haunting only grew stronger. Victoria barely slept anymore. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Grace, sometimes smiling, sometimes dripping with river water, sometimes whispering, "You took my breath, but I will take yours." Her daughter cried at night, saying, "Mama, Grace is at the window." Victoria screamed at the child, but deep down, she knew the little girl was telling the truth. Martin tried to drink away his guilt. One night, drunk, he stumbled to the river, shouting, "Come for me then! Take me if you must!" Villagers later found his body floating face down, pale as death. They whispered, "The river claimed him, just like it claimed Grace." Victoria fainted when she heard the news, knowing her turn was coming. Now Victoria was the last. She avoided people, drawing her curtains and locking her doors. But it didn't matter. Grace was already inside. Every night she heard whispers. Every morning she found wet footprints across her floor. She begged, "Please, Grace, forgive me. I was jealous. I was foolish. Don't take me." But the only reply was the sound of water dripping. The elders of the village gathered. "This is not ordinary," one said. "Grace's spirit is restless because she was wronged." Another added, "We must find her body and give her a proper burial." The villagers searched by the river. After hours, they discovered her remains tangled beneath the reeds, her white dress still clinging to her bones. The whole village came together for Grace's burial. They placed her body in a wooden coffin and laid her beneath an oak tree on the hill. Flowers covered her grave. A priest prayed, "May her soul find peace." But as the crowd turned away, Victoria remained frozen. She saw Grace's spirit standing over the grave, staring at her with eyes that held both sorrow and rage. From that day, Victoria's health declined. She grew thin, pale, and restless. She heard voices in her walls, saw shadows move in her room. One night she found her reflection gone from the mirror. Only Grace stared back. She screamed until her throat bled. Victoria's daughter told the villagers, "Grace comes to me at night. She says she wants justice." The villagers gasped. They asked, "Justice for what?" The girl whispered, "For her death. Mama killed her." The truth spread like wildfire. People began spitting at Victoria's door, calling her murderer. A mob gathered outside Victoria's house. "Confess!" they shouted. "Tell us what you did to Grace." Victoria hid inside, trembling. Grace's voice filled the room. "Tell them, Victoria, or I will." Terrified, Victoria screamed through the window. "Yes, we killed her. We drowned her. It was me, Martin, and Joseph." The villagers gasped, some weeping, others furious. The villagers dragged Victoria into the square. They debated whether to hand her to the magistrates, but before they decided, a sudden storm swept the village. Thunder cracked, wind howled, and rain poured. In the midst of it, Victoria cried out, "Grace, please! Spare me!" Then lightning struck the ground near her, and she collapsed, lifeless, eyes wide in terror. After Victoria's death, the storm ended instantly. The villagers stood in silence, realizing Grace's spirit had taken what it needed. They buried Victoria far away from the village, without flowers or prayers. People said her soul would never rest. That night, children said they saw a figure walking toward the hill where Grace was buried. She wore white, her face calm at last. She knelt at her grave, whispered something to the wind, and vanished. From that night on, her lullabies were no longer heard in the dark. The haunting ended. The villagers never forgot. They taught their children, "Do not let jealousy blind you. Do not harm the innocent. The dead may forgive, but they never forget." Grace's name was spoken with respect, and her grave became a place of flowers and prayers. Victoria's daughter grew up remembering the ghostly visits. She often went to Grace's grave, laying wildflowers there. "I'm sorry for what my mother did," she whispered. Some said Grace's spirit appeared to the girl once, smiling gently, as if forgiving her. The river remained a place of fear. At night, villagers swore they heard splashing, like someone struggling beneath the water. Some said if you listened closely, you could still hear Grace's final words echoing, "The truth will rise." Parents warned their children never to play near it. Years passed, but the story of Grace lived on. Victoria, Martin, and Joseph became symbols of envy and cruelty, remembered only with shame. Grace became a legend, the girl who was wronged but found justice beyond the grave. Her haunting was not just vengeance, it was a warning. The innocent may fall, but their spirits rise stronger than the lies that try to bury them. And so the village learned, death does not silence truth, and justice will always find its way, even if it comes with the footsteps of a ghost.